Good morning and welcome to our weekly stats report given to us by our broker and owner, Chris Small. We here at Small Associates want to make sure that you guys are up to date on the current market statistics, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's been going on in the entire MLS, but we'll break it down as well into a couple zones. So without further ado, Chris Small, how are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. Everybody having a happy summer solstice.
Well,
This week, last week, the 12th to the 19th, there were 685 under contract or, properties that have gone into escrow. And that is up probably 7 or 8 from the week before. And that breaks down to 274 below 250, 261 between 250 and 400, 133 between 400 and 800, 13 between 8 and a million, 4 between 1 and 2 million. And there were none over 2 million last week. But I think those are pretty good numbers considering the times we're living through. In Zone 10, there were a total of 17 contracts that happened. And then in the fan area, there were only 2 contracts last week. And then in the museum district, let's see, let me move this down a little bit. In the museum district, there were 2. So those were a little soft. There does seem to be a little bit more inventory in the fan and museum district than we've had, but I don't think it's really anything to start getting concerned about. In Zone 20, there were 15 properties that went into contract, and 2 of those were between 1 and 2 million. In the 2-1 portion of that zone, there were 4 contracts, and 1 of those was between 1 and 2 million. And in the 2-6 area of 2-3 of the Zone 20, there were 9 contracts. 1 was between 1 and 2 million, and 3 were above 400 but below 8. And then in Zone 22, the Henrico County near in, the total for that zone was 36 properties went in contract. And in the 2-9 zip code, right immediately adjacent to the city line, there were 10. And there was 1 between 1 and 2 million, and 1 between 8 and a million. So some pretty decent sales there. We have all the statistics for all the areas, and if you're interested in seeing everything broken down by real estate zone, we have all the areas in Central Virginia MLS. And if you have a question about your area or your neighborhood, please feel free to give me a call or send me a text, and I'll be glad to have a conversation with you about what's going on for you.
yeah, that's great. And that's good to hear that things are still moving and grooving, and the numbers seem to be pretty much close to the same, right? Every week.
They seem to have been sticking in the sort of mid to upper 600 transactions per week.
Yeah.
And currently there are, let's see, what's the inventory? In the entire Central Virginia MLS, there are 37, almost 3,800 available properties. The majority of those are between 250 and 400, and 400 and 800. And then just under a million, there are 147 for sale, and between a million and 2 million, there are 153. And there are 43 houses above $2 million for sale in MLS right now. So that number seems kind of high, but that is the entire region with, all the far-flung counties and the city and Petersburg and everything added together.
Sure. Oh, that's good. Yeah, and thank you for going over that. Annie Junker, our social media marketing manager, is here to give us a question. Hey, Annie.
Hey, yeah, so my first question, for any of the first-time home buyers that are watching, or those who may question, the industry or whatever it is, why is it important now more than ever to have a realtor represent you?
Well, that's kind of like about 10 questions at once. First-time home buyers obviously need somebody to sort of show them how to move through the process and how to prioritize different aspects of the process. People love to look at houses. Most of the time they start looking at houses before they're prepared to buy. And frequently that leads to, tears before bedtime. Because when you look at houses and then you wake up and you realize you can't afford it, or you're not prepared, so that when it's time to make an offer and you're not prepared, you could lose a property because you didn't put the proper, I guess, didn't go in the proper format, because you need to be qualified before you start looking at houses, so you're looking at the right thing. And when people get qualified, it's very important that they understand what they can afford, not the answer to like, oh, I want to spend X. And they go, yeah, you're good for that. Because generally when they say they want to spend X, they're actually thinking of a property that's probably more expensive than that. And so having an agent who will educate them about what the market is like and what you can and can't get for different amounts of money, so that the buyer can make the best decision for themselves, I think is important. And so, when people go to a lender, most lenders will say, what are you thinking about spending? And people throw out a number. And the loan officer might run some numbers and go, yeah, you're good for that. But what they need to do is they need to go to the loan officer and they need to say, what can I qualify for? And, go over all their finances so that the guy can say, well, you can buy a $2 million house if you want. And then they come back to their agent and go, we're qualified up to 2 million, but it's just me and my cat. We don't, need but so much. And I actually had somebody say that to me one time. But so knowing the boundaries of what you qualify for is important, because when you're the other side of that equation and you're looking at houses and you need to buy a certain type of house, and the ideal house comes on the market and it's $50,000 more, you need to know whether you can pull the trigger or not. And buying a house is not like buying a sport coat. It is an investment. It's also an investment in the way you live. And frequently people come and they go, oh, I don't want to be house poor, but then they buy a house that doesn't really suit their needs and they move 2 years later because it's too small or the neighborhood doesn't really fit. That is not economical. So, because buying a house is expensive, moving is expensive. When you move, it affects your life. I've moved within a city block and from one side of the street to the other across an intersection, and my entire life changed. Every store I went to seemed to be different. The gas stations I went to. So it is where you live is very important. And you need to think about that when you're making a decision about that, because it does affect your life. And if you have certain goals for the way your life is to be, the framework of your life, you need to pay attention to where you're going to be. So making a good decision and being prepared to make a good decision is really important. The other side of the question that you asked me is just in general, why is it important to have an agent? All of that stuff I just talked about with first-time home buyers is important. But more importantly, helping somebody interpret all the information that's coming at you. We have access to more information than ever before about real estate, and it means that our buyers are much more well educated, but they don't know about every item of information they get, and they need somebody that really knows what they're talking about to help them vet that information so that they know which pieces of it to pay attention to. And I think that is more important than ever now, because when you look at some of these online evaluation systems, some of them are great. Some of them are fairly accurate. Some of them it's sort of a spin the wheel, because depending on the sources of data that they're using, and even depending on the physical characteristics of the neighborhood, some of those things may be more accurate than others. And so you need somebody to really help you get to the bottom of what is really accurate.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and I know we could go on for even longer to answer that question. But the relevance is there, and it's extremely important to have someone who knows what they're doing. So, so thanks for explaining all that.
My pleasure.
And then actually, I do have another question, and it's kind of directed for both of you. How is Small and Associates doing as a firm through these unprecedented times?
Yeah, actually, I know Chris will follow up behind me with 2020 statistics, but looking at 2019 and 20, we're pretty much right in line with each other, even with all the chaos and uncertainty going on. This time last year, as a firm, we had 77 total transactions closed, and the total sales price was 21.6 million in sales. So that was a pretty good start to the year. Right now, as we hit the middle of the entire year, Chris, what are we looking at for 2020?
Well, I'm happy to report my personal statistics are up by a lot, by like 3 million. The firm, we actually have had fewer transactions, but the volume has been higher, which I think that has been one of my goals for our firm, is to do a higher volume, but not necessarily in the number of transactions. Right now we have 9 active listings, and there are 9 Small and Associates listings under contract, and there are 13 properties under contract where we represent the buyers. And so far, year to date, we're just at 60 transactions with a little bit over 21 million in sales. I've done 21 transactions, and it's 13 million and some change that I've done. So I'd say, in spite of COVID-19 craziness and all the other things that have been going on in 2020, we are navigating it pretty well, because when we can sit here and say our numbers are the same from last year, that's good. Last year was a good year. Mm-hmm. All the economic projections that I've read through NAR are that our second quarter is only going to be down like 1.5%, and that as we move through the year, value is going to continue to increase, and the real estate side of things will basically have a very short little down bounce and then continue to move slowly upward.
So. Yeah, that's fantastic. And I know we're really proud of all of our sales associates and those that work behind the scenes who don't necessarily get seen and talked about a lot, but we appreciate all their help. And if you're an agent looking to grow your career and learn how to do real estate the correct way, and that way, just give us a call. You can call me at 804-564-4205.
And we have something else to talk about. We have a new office. We're going to be in less than 2 months. We're going to be in Carytown in a building with our name on it, which is the first time that we've had a sign out in visible public for probably 30 years. So that's pretty exciting. And we have more space for more agents.
Yeah, I think it's helping to solidify our brand and who we are and who we I guess what we love about the city. So it's fantastic to hear, and we're excited. But yeah, if you guys have questions or want more information, feel free to give us a shout, and we'll continue up next week with more statistics for you guys.
Thanks.
All right, y'all have a good Sunday. Happy Father's Day to those fathers.
Yeah.